Welcome to Learn This Game, where you can learn about board games and how they are played. In this presentation, we'll be looking at the Warfighter WWII expansion number 24, U.S. Airborne. In this video, there'll be a general description and overview of the expansion. We'll inventory the different types of individual cards, and we'll show how to incorporate the expansion into the core game during setup and gameplay. You will need the base game Warfighter WWII in order to use the U.S. Airborne expansion. A complete playthrough of a mission was presented in Learn This Game's video of this course set. This video will show you step by step how to set up and play the game, including forming your squad, using weapons and equipment, movement, combat, and achieving your mission objective. This video is required to understand how to play the full game. The link to the video is in the description. This video on the U.S. Airborne expansion should be sufficient to show you how to use the expansion with the core game. But if you want the actual rulebook instructions, you can find them in the rulebook in the Pacific core game. There are no instructions in the expansion itself. There are helpful links in the description as well as a timestamp index so you can quickly go to any part of the video. And if you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also leave a comment to share your experience or let us know what game you would like to see reviewed. Your participation really does help the channel continue to grow and provide more content. The U.S. Airborne expansion was published in 2018 by DVG and designed by Verssen. This expansion allows you to conduct airborne missions in Europe during World War II. The base game is recommended for ages 14 and up. The difficulty level is moderate and each mission averages 30 to 90 minutes to play. This game is designed for 1 to 6 players who play cooperatively on the same squad. Since one player can play every soldier, this game is easily played solo and requires no special rules for solo play. An app is not required and there are no apps available for this game. And if you like this expansion, you can also check out the German and UK Airborne expansions. Now let's get into the expansion itself. This expansion adds 56 cards to the core game Warfighter WWII, including airborne soldiers, weapons, equipment, and new card types Landing Zone and Enemy Lines. Thematically, this expansion is based on U.S. airborne soldiers and missions in World War II Europe. Now let's review how the game is won. The winning conditions remain the same. You must accomplish the conditions on the objective cards before all of your soldiers are downed, or the mission timer runs out of turns. Now let's look at the components. There are a total of 56 cards in this expansion. These include 18 U.S. airborne soldier cards. Airborne soldiers are designated by the paratrooper insignia. Only airborne troops can go on airborne missions. There are also 11 U.S. weapon cards, 5 equipment cards including the parachute and glider, and 5 U.S. airborne mission cards which are all based in Europe and are designated on the left side of the cards. There are 9 enemy lines cards which are unique to airborne missions, and there are 5 landing zone cards which are also unique to the airborne missions. And there are 3 U.S. airborne service record cards. Service record cards will be covered in a separate video. Now let's see how to set up the game with this expansion. Most of the setup is the same as described in the basic video tutorial, so we will only review how the expansion affects the setup. An airborne mission is a special kind of mission first appearing in expansions 24, 25, and 40. To perform an airborne mission, we must first select an airborne mission card. We must remember to read the special instructions. For example, on this airborne mission, we cannot play action cards with the support keyword. We would then select our soldiers as described in the basic tutorial, along with weapons, skill cards, and equipment. Only airborne soldiers may participate in airborne missions. Some mission cards will require placing multiple objectives. There are no new objective cards in the expansion, so we will need to select objectives from the core game and then place them according to the mission card. The soldiers must be delivered to the mission card either by parachute or glider. We only get to select one of the two since all soldiers must arrive together by the same means. There is only one copy of each card in the expansion, so if we choose the parachute, we would apply the effects of the card to each soldier. The parachute does not cost any resource points to use, but does cost 2 loadout points per soldier. Soldiers may also not start with any gear with a loadout value of 3 or more, or any explosives, except for up to 3 grenades. For example, this machine gun cannot be included in the initial deployment of the squad since it has a loadout value of 7. The glider does not cost any resource points to use and does not affect each soldier's loadout capacity. However, the glider card does require us to move any objectives on the tactical display one location beyond their original placement. We then shuffle the landing zone cards and place the deck face down next to the tactical display. If we have landing zone cards for multiple airborne expansions, we can combine them to form a larger deck. We also shuffle the enemy lines cards and place the deck face down next to the tactical display. We can also make this a larger deck by adding enemy lines cards from other airborne expansions. The landing zone and enemy lines cards simulate the difficulties of airborne missions. Airborne forces must operate behind enemy lines while cut off from support forces until their mission is over. We are now ready to begin the airborne mission. Now let's see how the expansion cards are used during gameplay. At the start of the first turn only, we draw a landing zone card and apply its effects. This is the only time during the mission we will need to draw a landing zone card. Then, at the start of each turn starting with turn 2, we draw and resolve an enemy lines card. The card is then placed in a discard pile. We would then proceed per the core game rules to complete the objectives before all of our soldiers are downed or we run out of turns. This concludes this review of expansion number 24, US Airborne. Visit us at these sites and don't forget to leave a comment about your experience with this expansion or let us know what game you'd like to see reviewed next. And if you would like to experience something more exciting than jumping out of a perfectly good airplane into the jaws of death, stick around for our disclaimer. Coming up next.